Hi guys, it's me, Suze. Just logging in a little proof on my YouTube channel for you. So the question was posed by Z, who am I? And I just want to show you the YouTube subscriptions, the very few that I have. And 7 months ago, right here, Brian Ben Michael. Now that's Z's other name. And let's just follow that across. 7 months ago, 1 subscriber. Now you say, why do I think that's him? Because he's holding his sweet baby there. But I know this isn't his main YouTube channel because he's got a lot of YouTubes. Okay, and you can see right there is Z's upload webcam video from June 11th, 2013. That would be one of his first ones. And, let's see what we got here. The other day, he did have a couple of his other videos on here. Okay. So, of course, we have the Accelerate the Quickening. Very interesting. Huh. Looks like they're gone now. Okay. Let's go back. No place to click on videos. Interesting. Yep, right there I am. Suze Pratt right there. Okay. Sorry. It's just a little perplexing to me. A couple of his videos are gone. Oh no, there it is. Okay, good. It's under liked videos. This was when I first got wind to see.
And that's a part of that story. So Nanda is a frequency.
You can see that's Z, the same guy that was interviewed by Mel.
And so is Z. And if you couple the Z with the X, you get something equivalent to the Hebrew Aleph.
Right. That would be the 1. And then there was part 2, which was really confusing. Let's play some for you.
Continuing. If I sound frozen sometimes, it's because sometimes I'm not able to say all that I need to say in the manner that it needs to be said, because the collective is not ready to receive that.
I really can't follow anybody around.
Relating to the things that we're going to refer and relate to. So I, as a being, know that I've come from this primordial instance, and it's moved through so many transmutations and permutations and transitions,
Those things a little bit.
So skipping in between all of that, most recently, and I'll go with most recently, I was born in July of 1979, and I grew up in the state of Connecticut here in the United States of America. And on the surface, that is somewhat conventional life. point at which it took the reins and started.
Now we'll do the detailing part. Because I don't mean to leave these details out. It's just there's so much other information that keeps jumping around that they somehow just fall away. I'm not hiding behind the names of Nandas, that's just referring. That's the attribute of my spiritual power, my frequency. Z is of Nandas Zenit Zox. Parts inside it, its components. In the fiction, Mr. Nobody is named in 1979 Brian, B-R-I-E-N, Gaelic, with a Gaelic spelling, like O'Brien. In fact, my parents even had a joke. That was told to me so many times, it's as if I found it funny and repeated it. They wouldn't need to put the O there, because they'd always be going, O'Brien! There. I even good with that too. So it's Ryan O'Brien with the clan O'Brien. My father's family was not O'Brien.
Now here I'm telling my story and everybody's telling me it's too personal. But I see other people doing the same thing. My issue is that I'm not here to have anybody control me or tell me what my role is. And Z's pretty curious about what my role is. I don't really understand the obsession.
I would say them for their own sake.
Alright, it'll be fun. You already took it apart, now I'll show you how to put it back together.
We got your name. Alright.
Only I was related to myself.
I'm gonna shut this off, see what else I find for you. Alright, we're finding out what a bundy is, or what a bundy is.
Land on the sea, in a building, at a place, to give itself a title. What is that? What is that? What is a human?
Please excuse my losing place. Rolling back through. But, as it travels back through this small portion that we're backtracking through, the elucidation of the crypticness is becoming less cryptic, more experienced, directly, hoping.
So-called by body anyway. So we need to break through these experiences we're having until we get to the core of what's actually going on, because we have beings that do exist at different spectrum of awareness of their being. The nature of a discussion like this leads to fierce abstraction. I suppose that sort of abstraction is the quality of gnosis itself, and very carefully referring and relating to the things that we're going to refer and relate to. So I, as a being, know that I've come from this primordial instance, and it's
we work two different ways.
moved through so
to me,
many
Z's language is very,
and permutations and transitions.
I guess just a little bit
so
confusing.
In between,
not really sure how the gestures go with the words.
Most recently,
and my language is just different. So for me to adapt to someone else here again,
and
I find insane, especially when I'm not associated with that person.
Of America. And on the surface led a somewhat conventional life until a certain point at which it took the reins and started exploring. And some of that exploration led me beneath the surface to understand that my life was not as conventional as I may have believed, neither for itself nor for what was underneath it. So that being said, I could fill in more detail, or we could talk about Oregon and anything else in between.
That being just said a whole bunch.
What'd you say?
That being just said a mouthful. You have to hear. There's the pierce between the lines.
Let's unpack a little bit more about what you talked about in terms of your upbringing, because again, these videos and these audios go in different places. So part of your background obviously had to do with your background.
Your upbringing.
I'd be glad to help you life chart.
Your upbringing. Be here. Your upbringing. For those concerned, this is my mother. Surprisingly, she also has a mother. A father. Mother had a mother. It's also shocking. The father. At great-grandparent level. The mother's 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 mother. Or whatever.
See, I think I do it a lot more clear doing my videos the way I do them.
Mother's mother.
I bring pictures and information.
Great-grandma.
Put it into a little iMovie.
That's a Transylvanian, Romanian family. As I was told, made to understand by those who know these things, because they keep track of these families for the purity of their bloodline. The long-standing rabbinic family, tracing its roots to King David, a authentically Judean mind. Exciting, but not really. Great, twisted, dark, warlocks, practicing blood,
Bummer.
It sounded really stupid. You've got the and his dad's side, that guy, Russian, very Russian. In all aspects of this family, their history in Romania, they appeared and they began doing what they always do, taking over business power, Emporium, governance.
Man, I gotta stop this. I'll be back, you guys.
I've said name. Blah, blah, blah. And those were my handlers, because I am not related, I am formated. So we have crystal blood. So we take the contours, even in the allele, cultivated, of our Stedev family. I'm not going to explain that now. Dive into the bath. You'll understand. You won't, because you're not meant to.
Education, the fact that you were brought up in sort of a mixed family in terms of both faith and race, and then also the influences that came from, shall we say, outside of your family sphere, and anything you wanna bring into that.
Okay, so some of what I want to get into tonight is narrative, building narrative, the art of storytelling, and it dovetails into dealing with attributes and individuals as vectors in the alternative media.
You're storytelling with Randy Maugans.
And why so much
Is that what it
alternative
is?
media lacks sanitization, and what it is to have sanitization in a network of corresponding vectors or individuals dispensing data in compartmentalization from each other, and how this often leads to a game of telephone and a bunch of indirect experiencers, and how that further...
Now, before that becomes anything that the hell is he just doing? I was making a stop sign. Stop sign. A bunch of vectors. Visceral. Stop sign. We're storytelling. I was pointing at Randy, I was pointing at me. Stop sign. That's it. No ritual. If that's all you cared about, go back to sleep.
There's a emergence of...
He makes it intimidating if you don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Well, it's a psyop. I mean, it's a literal psychological operation of vectors.
Hold on! Psyop!
Wait, you're the vector of chaos, Z. You confuse me,
The context of a psychological operation is that it's happening in the mind.
and I am highly intelligent. That's a vibration in me that says I just don't really
Context of a psychological
jive with what you're
operation
saying, man.
is what's happening in the mind. Program, mantra.
I broke free from the program long time ago, brother.
Dot. You are the psychological operation. You're the psyop.
No, I'm the
Your
sovereign.
life is the psyop. Himmler's wet dream.
Nasty.
Ashladai, Valzavub.
And here again, nobody knows what he's talking about except for him. And what's the name of this? Seizing the Helm. So you ask me. You tell me. He's on Randy's show.
Samael!
And this is what he's doing.
All having their way with their buddies via your life. Clearly that seems like Hitler, Himmler, Goebbels, Bormann. Forget their names. Forget their names unless you want to permutate an occult and understand the relevance that the entity chose for them to have. You're the psyop.
You're the psyop.
Story. Start.
It's a vector where, I mean, as soon as I put out noise or I move, every frequency generates an output. That output is a vector into the field of reality. So if you have information coming from XYZ source who gets out on the internet and says this bit of information, and then somebody else piggybacks on that, all of the next experiencers, the sanitization comes in. We say we have to clean this up. Where is the source? What is their source? And oftentimes it's series of shadow operatives just distribute.
That's somebody playing baseball. somebody threw or hit a ball. Somebody else caught the ball. They threw it somewhere else. Get it?
Phone call with somebody. Somebody that knows their inside source really just
Still.
putting out
It doesn't matter how much time I
that's
spend with you.
correct, but colored. Let me use that term. It's colored, and then mouthpiece. Again, its popularity sets the colored information even more colorfully because it sounds cool, and they're going to get more hits if they dress it up, and they're
Well, did you know my walls were colored by the blue avians? No, I shouldn't have mocked. No, I was just shat on by the blue birds. I explained it.
is a large vector that starts to emerge. So now it's coming to the audience from a series of indirect vectors. How is the audience receiving that information really going to benefit and grow, even if there is one thing out of that information?
Really?
When the information itself is coming from a very indirect experiencer whose frequency is only from a game of telephone.
Wow.
And then it gets more insidious from there.
Judge, jury, executioner.
Let's face it, we all do this to some degree or another. And certainly on the internet, the standards of what used to be called journalism have pretty much been snuffed out at this point. There are good researchers. There are ways to do original open source research on topics and subjects.
Were you trying to mess with Randy even back here? I never thought of it like that. Until now.
Testimony that's given. And yet all of that gets colored, all of that gets blended into what Marshall McLuhan called the medium. The medium is the message. Therefore, the medium itself is formed, as you were talking about with frequencies earlier, by the overall message. It has a context, but the context shifts and morphs.
This is the great spiritually
as the underlying story takes on more and more detail. Sort of like a snowball going down a mountain. So we all do this to some degree, and you're talking about cleaning it up, right? So
we need to. I mean, that's okay. So this is gonna. If I didn't answer your question directly, I didn't misunderstand or forget the question. But to go back to the beginning, to understand the nature of the
see, that's the confusion. You like to spin.
This dynamic that we are existing in at this time.
What?
Huh?
You ever get a camera, take a picture of stuff? That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
The split personality. I see.
I understand that guy's thing. Take it apart. Take it apart.
Is to understand that we are here to tell stories, to build narratives.
And you don't think he wants to be a
trajectory that we want to
really
pursue in doing so. So yes, we are all doing that with greater and lesser degrees of intentionality. At a certain point, the question is, why are some people telling the certain stories they're telling? Do they even know? Are they, did they reach into the alternative world because they had a sort of a knack for that kind of information, to give them a sense of importance to own that?
Important information. Like, what time of day this Manchurian candidate can stab himself in the eye? important information relevant to your life. Oh. Really? So I need Tom to tell his Manchurian Canada story so that I can tell mine better. Because, yeah.
And then at a certain point, let's say they were playing, and then they looked like a useful tool, so something else picked them up and started to use them as a distribution based for information because they have an audience, they have people who listen to them, they're mouthpiece. Why did they?
If Jerry and Jim and Kim and Molly get used to Tom and saying, or Tom, about the XY Blob Dog monster, and, say, the XY Blob monster, went to the White House and ate several other smaller XY Zoom monsters. The reason that they did this was because
Oh, wow. Alright, dude. Let's turn you off for a minute. I gotta rest.
a reptilian.
Maybe it did. Maybe you did. What do I do with that information? How am I going to serve my sister and brother in the body of our collective being better by knowing that that dog's hair came from the dump under Nebraska? Tell me that, and maybe it does. Maybe I need to learn that the hair on my ass crack was also formulated in the dump in Nebraska. To know that a certain flaw in my character is because of some program that's running in the ass hair in my ass crack that was formulated in the dump under Nebraska. I'm not denying the story, but what the fuck purpose does it serve?
I have no idea.
I'm telling my story. I'm telling it as a narrative that I would use as a reference to give power to others in dynamic that then will serve all of us.
That's what I've been doing, is telling my story, but you guys are making something out of it.
Generating certain composite of information. I don't believe that's correct at most. I believe most are just holding for one reason or another, and then they're just like all things throughout our, at least the last 6,000 years of known history, they can be picked up and turned by the greater AI, the great AI that's manipulating this field called the FTPO.
Are you playing baseball?
Can be used to confound ourselves from each other, which again goes back to the necessity of speech as a part, there's a useful aspect and a difficult aspect of speaking in such abstraction to stay away from over-associating to this thing without being related. Coming back to narrative, swaying back to narrative, my narrative, which was the direct question. So,
now, if you're going to land your UFO in the field in Nebraska, you might want to learn, the non-plane, avian plane, aviational, planigrational terms of how to land a UFO. There was a whole group that used to learn how to land UFO closures. Yeah, always. EI, cheerio.
it's a really heavy line. They traced to King David.
No.
They were Romanian rabbinic family out of Transylvania. Again, that's an ostensible story. They're actually
It's a real
Morlocks, Transylvanian, High Transylvanian works. That's the people that, this is back engineered and understood tracing those lines and understanding what those lines actually are.
Wait. I got it. Did you figure it out? I figured it out. Oh, I'm not just telling my story. I'm telling you there's a story that I get to know because I'm involved, but it's not about me. Did you figure it out? It's not about me. It's about, I actually firsthand understand who these individuals are. They're my assigned family. That's knowing directly this group. Oh, that's why I'm telling that story. Sorry if it was boring you. And intriguing to convey juicy details at the same time.
The hospital that I was born at, I came out the flesh at, given the name Brian, B-R-I-E-N, Gaelic spelling, because, there's all in the fiction, everything in the fiction is plausible deniability, not on the governmental level, on your own occulted life level, for each of us. Everything has an occulted key, and again, there's a spectrum of more deliberateness and less deliberateness, and if you're dealing with, say, I'm in my 30s, my parents are just passing into their 60s,
Major
that generation
dude.
between 50 to 70, maybe that's a little far on a higher bracket. That generation, largely unaware of their involvement in the occult in all capital letters, the satanic folk, because
I didn't say satanic, I said satanic, but I mumble sometimes. When I'm in a certain mode, sometimes I mumble. So in case you heard satanic, I have a very particular definition of satanic. That's just being a fuck, and I defined it before. I said Saturnic, of the cult of Saturn, satanic. That's all. It's not a big deal. I said Saturnic. Saturn, the Roman archetype, Saturn. Not the planet, what planet? What? It's in the sky. It's in the sky now, security. The archetypal energy, Saturn. The being, the entity, the Roman configuration, Saturn in Greek is Chronos.
See, most people know this, but they don't make the BFD about it.
And that's the point. And then, Ale, we're going to Saturn.
Same entity, the same archetype, of course, with Ale, which becomes Yud, is K. See, two different altars, so fucking kidding. You do start with chaos. The chaos of time vector. That was a little randy. That's a little randy.
What are you doing?
But you probably understood if you didn't. Rewind.
Spells, the compartmentalization, it's very small percentage of that generation that actually know what they're doing. Their parents still largely knew what they were doing. But the generation that would be my grandparents' generation.
So when I went out of the Messianics and I went into mainstream Orthodox Torah living, I went, of course, and it was a precede that prior Rosh Hashanah. I was 17 years old. I went to this rabbi. There's so much more I could fill in. It's not just for me to narcissistically spin my tail, but that's useful information. But I won't now, except to say this. That is how Emporium February of 1997. I came face to face with W, my handler. And I became his whipping boy in the real world.
Bummer.
No. In the Fox world. In the walking about life. He said all sorts of interesting cryptic things that eventually helped me wake up and coherate. Among them were, there's no such thing as fantasy.
There's no such thing as fantasy. It took me a long time. When I was 19, I started hearing him say this to grasp the fullness of that effect. Understanding that the real world is only esoteric tells us the mental world. So when you start in a simpler sense that may be more approachable, like in literature class, sometimes a professor will say, you write to learn. You write to learn what you know. As you write to discover what you have inside you. You didn't even sometimes at a simple level realize something you forgot about your past, or something you learned at one time and write, or you just, or the bigger picture, you start to understand more dimensions of what you know by the process, oftentimes aided by actually that, old-fashioned pen thing or pencil thing where you really write.
I think you talked about that, the ability to connect kinesthetically to the act of communication. Yeah.
In the same way, when we storytell, we're developing parts of ourselves that are there. They're not thoughts, but we need to unpack them. So in the process sometimes of spinning what might start out as fantasy, you may start to uncover a more sourced and rooted reality that's unique, and that's a helpful process to get in touch with that. Now going back to say,
Alright, I think it's a stop sign.
my past, my personal past, or the zombies that aired on all these different items that affect, or just spinning narrative as fantasy, or the alternative media in general. Well, the issue is, and it's a complex issue, but it's very real, there is past, present, and future. So if I start putting out a bunch of information into a field, a battlefield like the alternative media, well then, like you said, it starts to spin and reorient some of what's out there, and you take that clay and you shape it like this, and somebody out there, you're making a round shape, and somebody puts an eye on it, and then somebody sees it, they're like, I believe that's an eye.
Eye on what? Eye on what?
I don't know, what?
Eye on it.
Another eye, another knowledge, so, it's a very deep philosophical question for us philosophers. Philosophers have asked, like, was the face there before? Was shape? Was the face coming in? Was it emanating? Yeah, it is now. It is now. So, would the bodies exist or 9/11 exist? These programs, these modes, these strata that are running, where's the future? What was added to the field?
The future is now. I was told that one. How could it be otherwise? Sorry, I'm out of time. Ancient time.
I'm not me. I don't like terms and names because they say, I agree. So there's, from the certain people in certain ways, and so many different in the whole context of maybe unnecessary information.
My own names, those things. Facetious. Hanoch says he is the only individual in the Tanakh, Torah Ketuvim Nevi'im, the Torah Nevi'im Ketuvim, the Torah, the prophets, the writings, so called the Old Testament. One day it just wore out so much they decided it was so fucking old. Sorry, replacement.
Don't tell me you're
Okay,
writing
anyway.
the new book. Really?
The book of Enoch is regarding a character mentioned in Genesis, in the Torah, called Hanok. It's the only individual that says, he was and then he wasn't. And then a bunch of lore sprung up around that. In the book of Enoch talks deeply of this individual, what we call Enochian, Ananakian, Nukian. Puran has had something to say of these individuals, these human our counter thesis. The left here as thesis, but then were converted. Left to where? Under what? Where, how, why?
Who?
Who, hey, ho, hi, ho, hi, ha, how? Who, hey, hey? I'm not joking with you. It's not funny. It's just like weird.
It's not funny, and it is weird.
They went away with all their technology, preserved technology, then they oversat and overlaid. Like, this is an overlay. There's a layer over that layer, we can make another layer, and then stash it away in our layer. You appreciate the basic layer of it? You got you not to know that they really might not have it. And their Basil hacked into their mainframe, and they came back, and then they started shitting all over this shithole in the same way a Gazalian would shit in their shithole. The whole place began to stink really, really terribly.
That's shitty.
The end. No, we're in it. That's now. No end. Beginning. Again.
At least those triggers, but I'll use that one. It's pretty hardwired into the old text. We have these entities, the Anunnaki.
Oh, text. Okay. Victimize the monster. Fix it. Roll.
It's not the Anunnaki, we can throw away that name. But there are entities that are beyond time, and they can pop into time. In a more approachable way. We want to keep things in as approachable ways as we can, because that'll
This is like one day Grandma got really, really angry, and she took the big living room, and she divided it 7 different ways, and said, now the couch doesn't know about the love seat, and the love seat doesn't know about the recliner chair, and the recliner chair doesn't know about the rocker, and each Grandpa's in the recliner, Grandma's gonna sit in the rocker, the kids are on the love seat, parents are on the couch, and nobody knows about each other anymore. Or there's just a bunch of curtains in the living room. And Grandma can stop being angry and take down the curtains.
Very interesting.
No, corollary twisted. Corollary twisted. Then goes to the corridor, look in the hallway, and sits on the curtains. Yeah, nice. It's decided. Go to the logic. Ooh. 45 degree turn. 45 interturn. What's he doing over there? What's he doing on this screen? Time. Then build a time inside time and time inside time because the other people build times. Probably what we're doing here is supposed to be building time. So let's build some vectors inside the vectors inside the vectors. Cults. The cults. The dark cults. They're just building vectors on vectors because somebody built vectors. They're masons. They're builders. They're engineers. They're architects. Architecting architecture. Don't demonize them. They're just doing what they believe is supposed to be done. They don't know what they're doing is doing. They don't know what they're doing is doing.
This is why
At the top.
your buddy Suze
You
says this.
do your work. Because demons are going to be demons and vectors are going to build vectors.
Lord, forgive us, for we know not what we
They build
do.
a space outside time, inside time, the other time, the matrix is matrix, the holograph of the holograph of an emanating field of a projection of a refraction of a reflection of a clear monitor, screen, mirrored back, centered back. Here we are. Now entertain us. This little tribe.
Not sure about entertaining. I think we're having an
Sounds
earthquake.
from the station that we're currently been relegated to, for us to mind work into the actuality of these dynamics. So, the Truman Show. You've got the people up in the, if anyone hasn't seen that, Jim Carrey, the actor Jim Carrey in the movie The Truman Show, that he's from birth in live, being broadcast to a broader world, but he lives in this incubated, world where it's around and spherical.
So it's basically a prefabricated matrix.
It is.
Everybody was cast to be somebody.
Somebody lives in your head. Nobody lives nowhere.
Man, you don't let Randy say shit, do ya? This is the Z Show. Seizing the Helm, Part 2. Restoring Cohesion.
That played ancillary to this pivotal role.
Yeah. So, and there's obviously a Jungian and deeper than Jungian archetypal psychology here. Again,
Are you changing clothes, Z?
movie. If you just want to be drawn into yourself, maybe drop into tears. Mr. Nobody. Ever see it?
I think I may have, but it's not registering with my memory right now. I hate when that happens. No, I'm going to say that referentially right now that's not coming onto my screen.
The reference or the application is that every mind, especially when it's born of its flesh into this world, is going to have the ego born with it.
Right.
It's going to be the center of its world.
Yes.
So it's experience, that's the next segue, understanding mind. Mind as regards this material world that has material organs, and the organs are the shift phase into the visceral world, the temple that is.
There are men in a box. In a box beyond the curtain. Pay no attention to the men beyond the curtain. Up in the studio. Guiding your mind. Leading your life. It's not important. But it's important. Wait, I don't remember. Wait, who are these guys in the box? What?
Right.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I'm the man in the box.
Oh, you're many in a box.
Buried in my shed.
Used to call it Legion.
But don't come sleep.
And then to the real world, the mental world, the physical world. The mental world is the physical world. This is the material world when we experience each other in this forum called the Aptitude.
I'm not kidding.
Technically, even the mental world is part of the Aptitude in this.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's just comedy is a device. Comedy is a device. It's a mechanic to get the information.
Is anybody laughing?
It's not funny.
I don't think it is at all.
Maybe you don't even find it funny.
No.
Let me drop this in for a second, because what we've kind of built into at this point, Z, as human beings, as these incarnate spirit beings with mind, body, and soul, in this time-space continuum, we just frankly like a damn good story. And absent the externals, we know from anthropology that we create stories, and we create stories out of the subconscious realm to a large degree, so that the stories themselves, and this comes into the aspect of, well, is that true? Well, and then it comes up.
That was drawing the cartoon. And now this is my face.
No, I was doing fine when Randy was talking. I He was giving you props. He was helping people to understand what you're talking about. And you cut him off.
You know, the $50,000 question that Yeshua asked, what is truth? What is truth? I am truth. What is truth? Because truth, the word itself, truth, is a thing false. So it could be told the trough could be full of garbage. You know, we don't know what's in the trough. It's everyone's perspective. And they say in the esoteric, there's 70 faces to every experience. Every 70 faces.
Why are you saying that you or him is talking crap? I still don't really get this.
But there's an absolute. And the core is disseminating all truth. So we need...
Some go this way, some go that way.
Of those who are speaking. What motivates any speaker in the alternative media world or any distributional platform? What's motivating them to speak? So, you know, if it was a network marketing company and somebody's selling soap, what's motivating them probably, I mean, the rare individual that's so enamored with the soap is doing it because they're just captivated by the efficacy of the soap. Right. Somebody's putting themselves in the trance to how convinced they are for the soap because they want to make money. Of course they are. That's the essence of sales. So the question sits in the alternative media world, what's the motivation? So I guess in the world that we could use loosely called, I was referring to it often as New Age, but I want to move on to that and maybe particularize it to ufology. I don't like that term at all. It's nebulous, it doesn't mean anything, and it's applied to...
It's nebula? Which nebula? I want to believe.
Everything. Once upon a time it meant something. It meant something very direct when you went back to the L. Ron Hubbard circles and coming out of Edgar Casey and its origin point in Mount Blavatsky, and still in some circles, some certain channeling circles, it still means something very specific, which isn't, say, the application to somebody's a flaky spiritualist or some whatever, but landing it back at what we might more direct it at is the ufology community. Okay. Any community, if I may say so, can spin tales. There you go. Of course. Play because.
Turn it off. I'll play.
Who knows? I mean, that's such loose change.
Talking head. There's my food.
Right. So that, you know, and obviously that community deals with much more than just aliens. That it takes on a whole bracket of information, almost all of which I believe in its rudimentary form.
Almost all of which I believe in its rudimentary form.
Or why are we having that conversation? Because someone taught you to take the information like that. Didn't they?
We come back to say that we take command of the conversation so the things that we are dealing with are empowering a grounded reality and narrative where we produce food together, where we take back
For the first time we're talking about
what
the
has been
communal
called the planet,
commune.
this realm and its particulars, that they should function and they should give.
And be less preoccupied with little green men and the way they